Hello, I'm Noah Laker,
I'm Sean Go.
and this is our first podcast. This is Brick by Brick. And on this podcast, this is going to be the best real estate investment podcast in the world, in the universe. I assume aliens don't have real estate podcasts, but if they do, ours is better. And Sean and I have been in business together for about 6 years. We're going to start with a little introduction because this is our first episode and we don't really know what we're doing. I am a property manager and a real estate broker. And Sean walked into my leasing office one day about a little over 5 years ago. And that's how we met. And now we manage about 100 Airbnb properties. We run a real estate brokerage with about 20 agents. We invest in real estate. We do other little side businesses, and Sean builds airplanes. And that's who we are.
We are serial entrepreneurs.
Serial entrepreneur. We've got this crazy idea for a cereal that's just going to knock your socks off, too, because we're serial entrepreneurs.
Many flavors of granola and cornflakes.
That's right. With some raisins in there. And so you'll notice that our studio is a little bit of a mess. And that's not just because this is our first episode, but I wanted the audience to see the process by which you turn ideas into reality. It's called manifestation. And I don't even know which camera I'm supposed to be looking at. I'm going to look at these guys over here. And so you can see that this here was actually, Sean, maybe you can, this was the second iteration of our sign.
Right. So the first version was, I thought, the coolest, where it can change colors by the app or a remote. So I thought that was really cool. But when trying to break it into the different letters, joining them was impossible because the four spots where you need to solder was too close. So that failed miserably. Then I bought this one where it only has two spots, like a positive and negative. But it's still difficult. Then this version 2 kind of works, and certain parts go off and whatever.
And he's in here stinking up the office every day, soldering these pieces of metal together. And it didn't work.
So anyway, so this version, I should have started with this, but then I tried to avoid this because it's tedious to use a software to do offsets and make it, letter by letter in different ways. So we still ended up with this. And this is very stable. I just need to get the latest LED strip that just arrived today to finish up the rest here. And then we turn on and we replace this up there, and it's going to look cool.
Nice, beautiful neon sign. And the moral of the story is we knew that we wanted to create a podcast and have a nice podcast studio. And we went and got these SM7B Shure microphones and the holders and the desk and the computer and the lights and all that. And I thought we needed a neon sign. We don't know how to make neon signs, but Sean, in his infinite wisdom, decided, you know what, let's just roll up our sleeves and figure it out. And so now we look at that.
That's what we always do.
We did it.
Figure it out.
We did it.
Yeah.
You do it.
5 years of doing business together as great partners, we encountered many obstacles, challenges, and sure, I learned a lot from YouTube, from people, whatever. But when you start a business, you face all the problems, the gas, the repairs, the cleaning issues, everything. And we didn't have a mentor or somebody to just tell us the answer. We just figured it out.
You got to figure it out. No one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
You can sit and sulk and whine and complain, or you can just get your soldering iron and make the sign. And that's what we've done. So I think that this is a brilliant representation of our business relationship, and that we don't sit and think too hard. You don't fall into that trap of analysis paralysis. If I want a neon sign, by God, we'll have one. And so
find a way or make one.
That's right. So On this podcast, we're going to talk about real estate and investment in general and money and just whatever's tickling our fancy that day. And maybe a little, wax poetic a little. And I want to start with a news article that I found to be fascinating with respect to offices. So there's this guy, this very prolific investor who made a lot of money doing zombie malls. I'll just jump right into the article. After making a fortune buying failing shopping malls, real estate investor Igal Namdar is now shifting his focus to another struggling sector, office buildings.
Igal
is his name.
Okay, whatever.
Namdar Realty Group has, and I hope I'm not butchering that name, with all due respect to Mr. Namdar, they have spent over $480 million since 2021 acquiring office properties in Chicago, Cleveland, and New York City, all at steep discounts from their pre-pandemic values. The strategy? Buy cheap, cut costs, and wait for office demand to recover. But can this risky bet pay off? Namdar's approach is simple. Buy low, slash costs, and bet on return to offices. Now, I'll just pause here and say, can we all just agree that work from home was nonsense? I'm going to try not to swear on this podcast. It never worked. You're taking care of your kids and you're doing laundry and you're doing what you need to do at home. You're probably not working that much. If you work from home and you disagree, I'd love to hear about it. But the fact is, working from home, there's just too much temptation.
Distractions.
Too many distractions. I'm too comfortable. I'm going to be in my pajamas all day. And I think that the public and private sectors are responding to that. During COVID, it was a necessity.
Right.
And there was this whole kind of cultural shift to maybe we've been inefficient. Maybe we can solve traffic congestion and we can free up all of this office space and use it to potentially solve the housing crisis. Adaptive reuse, another very fascinating topic.
Idea.
And then reality set in. And the fact of the matter is, if you don't have a manager looking over your shoulder, you're just not going to work that hard. People respond to incentives. And if your incentive is to drink beer and jerk off during working hours, frankly, that's what's going to happen. They continue. Namdar made this strategy work with zombie malls, squeezing zombie malls being shopping malls that ended up sitting vacant. And I don't know if you've been to the mall lately. It's like a ghost town.
They have been Amazoned.
They've been Amazoned. Retail is dead. Offices were dying, but potentially making a comeback. And that is the bet that Mr. Namdar is making. So he squeezed profits out of struggling shopping centers. Now he's applying the same playbook to office towers.
He has deep pockets, huh?
Yeah, we're based in Northern California. There's a guy, Ethan Conrad, doing the same thing. He's buying up all the nice office buildings in Northern California, making a fortune doing it. That guy...
Whole of Northern California or just Sacramento?
He's up from Auburn. He's down in the Bay Area. That guy is crushing it. And Ethan, if you see this, we're friends on Facebook. I don't know if that means anything. So anyway, he's not the first one to think of this. So there are challenges they pose. While the office market is recovering, it's mostly happening in top-tier buildings, newer, high-end spaces with modern amenities. Namdar, on the other hand, has been buying older buildings that need renovations to stay competitive. And that's not the only challenge. You thought there was only one challenge? You'd be wrong. Namdar's cost-cutting methods have angered unions, especially when he...
Surprise.
Yeah, unions make a living off of being angry. They cease to exist if they're happy.
So it's not just Karens, HOAs.
Especially when he replaced higher-paid unionized workers with lower-cost staff. Also, one of his biggest Manhattan purchases was supposed to be converted into housing, but zoning laws blocked the plan, leading to a $42 million loss when he had to sell. And by the way, great job, zoning. Great job, zoning department. We wanted to take a building that was wasted square feet. It's like this big building in a prime location, and we say, hey, you know what? There's too much office square footage. There's a housing crisis. There's millions of people sleeping outside. 500,000, I think. I made that up. I think there's 500,000 people in the United States that sleep outside every night. and the zoning department comes in and says, no, 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 you can't turn that into housing. Great work, city. But despite setbacks, Namdar remains confident. Some investors think Namdar is onto something. His Fifth Avenue office building is now nearly fully leased after major upgrades, and big tenants, like Adelphi University, have signed long-term leases. Industry experts believe that if office values eventually rebound, Namdar's gamble could make him even richer than his mall investments did. But for now, the future of office real estate remains uncertain, and Namdar is taking a high-stakes risk in a sector that's still struggling. Some key statistics. The post-pandemic office market struggled in 2023 with rising vacancy rates, negative net absorption, and stagnant demand. The average tenant is actually downsizing their requirements between 20 and 30%, meaning businesses, since COVID, I think is the initial spark of inspiration, businesses have realized that they just don't need that many staff in the office, and they are responding accordingly.
Plus, some companies are trying to use AI like Meta, right? Firing a lot of employees and say, now AI is kind of good enough and do certain jobs, and then automation, whatever. So it does affect employment.
Yeah, times are changing. Now, I'm no prognosticator. I don't know if this strategy is going to work. I don't know if offices are going to have a renaissance. But as far as the other point that we touched on of adaptive reuse, converting unused space into housing, or rather converting it to its highest and best use, that I believe is going to be a winning strategy. And so I wish Mr. Namdar all the success.
That kills two birds with one stone.
That's right.
And you have been very passionate about adaptive reuse.
I have. I think it's long overdue. And we're in California. We have a very high concentration of unhoused individuals, and we just have way too much square footage sitting empty, whether it's an old bank building or an office or what have you. And I think that there's a lot of, it's no small process, because a lot of these commercial buildings, they have a very deep floor plate, it's just a very wide building. And you need, housing has different requirements than commercial.
You can do some conversions, but you're not building from scratch.
It depends. Right? Yeah, it depends. Yeah. Sometimes I've seen case studies where they would take a building with a very deep floor plate, and they actually have to cut a big, they have to cut a big hole in the middle of the building, essentially, to sort of create new hallways so that you can stay compliant with housing standards, which again are very different from different types of commercial assets. You need 2 points of egress. You need, your load-bearing requirements and all that. So it's a very complicated process. But I think that as the market continues to balance itself out, we're going to see more of that. In other news, Zillow is partnering up with Redfin. Bad news for real estate agents. Zillow is paying Redfin $100 million to be its exclusive rentals listing provider. Redfin's agents could potentially boost Zillow's enhanced market strategy. The two companies have other existing partnerships, sharing new construction listings, 3D home tours, and interactive floor plans. I said this is bad news for real estate agents, and what I mean by that is that Zillow is, if you're a real estate agent, you know this, Zillow is your competition. Zillow used to just collect user data and sell leads. Then they started their iBuyer program, which was a fantastic disaster. I think they lost $500 billion on that, or was it $500 million? They lost a lot of money.
500 billion is a lot.
Probably 500 million. That's I'm saying that out loud. Okay, see, I'm not a smart person.
But now there's a lot of technology, virtual, tours by yourself, whatever. So, yeah.
So there are whispers in the real estate world that Zillow is actually gearing up to acquire Redfin, which would be big deal. Big deal. Redfin, of course, is that brokerage. I mean, it's a website. It's a search engine. But they actually have their own agents where they're on a salary. They're like discount agents. And then Redfin, that's how they make their money. along with selling user data and whatnot. So I don't know, corporate consolidation is nothing new, but we're seeing that in the real estate sector, and it's something to keep an eye on, especially if you're a professional, not just an investor. So that's that. Podcasts are weird. I've never done a podcast before. I'm actually kind of anti-podcast in a sense, or I guess
we did one podcast before.
We did one podcast. It was like a one-time
thing. We rented a place and we talked about it, and we shared our journey, our experience. We answered some questions.
Yeah, and we were just goofing around. There was no script, and I had a high fever that day, and it was just a disaster. But it got such tremendous reception, and so by popular demand, we're back. And I guess that's the crux of the issue. In the same sense that a career politician who's constantly seeking power, if someone wants power, they probably don't deserve power. And that's my same problem with podcast hosts. I think, what kind of person wants to be on a microphone all day? Like, you love hearing yourself talk. I can barely stand the sound of my own voice, and I don't like being on camera. I'm not having fun.
That is actually a well-known fact that most people don't feel comfortable hearing their own voice. When I do my own YouTubes teaching people how to do, to design aircrafts and panels and whatever, or when I stumble across my own YouTube, on the TV, whatever, I play and then I hear myself and ooh, and I'm like, you, and I skip over, and my wife would like pass by and she would like laugh and like, yeah, we don't like hearing our own voice, so it's normal.
It's awkward. I think it's awkward. I don't enjoy it, but I'm hoping to grow into the role.
Right.
I'm hoping that we can do an episode every 2 weeks and chop it up into short form content. And it's a shameless marketing move, I'll admit. We definitely have an incentive here to make this work. But I also hope that if you're joining us and you're listening to our little podcast here, that you take something away from it. And in future episodes, we'll be talking about all sorts of topics related to real estate investment. Sean and I are prolific investors ourselves and real estate professionals, brokerage, property management. We do loans, and we've gathered quite a wide array of experiences in this industry. And I just hope that one or two of our friends are going to find this helpful at least, and then I guess it's worth it.
One of my biggest objective of the podcast is actually sharing knowledge and also motivating people who are sitting on the fence and not sure what they want to do with their money, or not sure they want to go into investment. Is it risky? Whatever. Nothing is like fail proof, bulletproof, but there's a lot of upside to real estate, a lot of potential. We started without much money, 10,000 each, and then we bought some furniture. We did arbitrage. We did 2 arbitrage in downtown Sacramento.
Airbnb arbitrage,
Airbnb
renting
without the need to own your own property. You rent and then you kind of put on Airbnb, and then we made a name for ourselves. We got into co-hosting, and then subsequently we had some cash accumulated, and we started buying properties ourselves. Now we are looking into many different things besides having a real estate company helping people buy and sell properties, long-term management, short-term management on Airbnb. We are going into sub 2 and 1031 exchange, and even next week we have a meetup on syndication.
And yeah,
it's exciting. There's so many ways to dice this.
A lot of ways to dice. A lot of ways to dice.
Yeah.
And value. Yeah, it's all about value.
Right.
I hope that if just one person takes some value away from this little podcast, then it's worth our time. And we just had a discussion with a friend and confidant on the subject of providing value without expectation of something in return. And it's so important. I ended up holding a training meeting for our agents on the very topic because I thought it was so important in any business, and I think especially in real estate because there's just a lot of money involved. It's a very mean life. We have this tendency to worry about competition. We don't want to give too much free sauce to the competition. The fact is, cooperation is what makes the world go round. Look around. This is not a zero-sum world. It's just a fact. If you have that zero-sum mindset, it's wrong. And I know it's wrong. And the way I know it's wrong is if you just look around, this all came from dirt. Me, you, the sign, the building that we're in, the world around us was dirt. It was sand and water and mountains. It was nothing. And people, humans, came together and shared ideas and cooperated and created synergy. And that's how great things happen. There's more than enough to go around. You can actually create new things.
You need to embrace the abundance mentality.
That's right. And the diversity of your colleagues. If we work together, we can build an even better world and a bigger world. We can make new things. If I give someone a little piece of advice, I don't lose that advice. It's not like if I give you $1, I lose $1. It's not a balance sheet. It's 1 + 1 + 1 = 5, 10, 20. It's like we can make new stuff. And that's the mindset that we're trying to carry into 2025 and beyond. And that's the mindset that we want to come into brick by brick. The best real estate podcast in the universe.
We are trying to hopefully be an example.
Yeah.
To show what's possible. And also document our journey, as investors ourselves, not just as agents or Airbnb co-hosts, that you can build your little empire brick by brick.
Brick by brick. Step by step.
Yeah.
Take the first step. If you have a crazy, silly idea, go ahead and execute it. What do you have to lose?
The first step is always the hardest. The first step in the right direction is better than 100 years of thinking about it.
Word.
Right?
Word.
We started 5 years ago without owning any properties. And from the arbitrage, we grew into co-hosting. From the money we accumulated over the years of co-hosting, we bought properties. And now we started a real estate company. And this chap here became the youngest broker in California.
True.
Good job. And now we have almost 20 agents, so it's like building a house brick by brick.
Brick by brick.
Step by step over the years, you can grow, right? We have clients who started with us 5 years ago and with one bedroom apartment, and that very first client bought duplex, triplex, repeated and grew to 14 doors. Okay. And then our cleaner saw the potential of Airbnb, learned about Airbnb from us, and then now he has 10 doors. Okay. And we are managing all this for them. So it's possible to make pretty impressive progress. Okay. It is even easier if you collaborate, learn yourself and learn from others and go at it together, and you'll be able to move a lot faster.
Brick by brick. Thank you for joining us. That's the end of the episode. Goodbye.
We'll see you next time.